Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new Pori Wrench stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
First one is titled, Scream at Me to Use My Air? Yeah, right. I was at a gas station putting air in my tire. This gas station required you to pay $1 but came with a pressure gauge. The gas station across the street had free air but no gauge. As I'm filling my tires, a lady pulls up beside me and starts asking questions like how much it was to use, how much time, etc. I answered her questions as best I could but really was more focused on filling my tires since there was a time limit. My car has annoying warning lights that let you know if a tire is low, even the spare, and I hate when these sensors are lit up. The lady is still waiting there and is getting visible annoyed. This lady yells out, "Will you hurry up? I'm in a rush." I was confused for a second but quickly realized that she just wanted to use my time without paying. I did what any gentleman would do and proceeded to move slower. I pulled out of the spot and into a gas pump. She almost hit my car swooping into where my car was. She jumps out and as she puts the air pump to her tire it shuts off. I guess I was smiling way too big because as she jumped into her car and sped off she yells "Duck you" at me. I was so pleased with how it all timed out I didn't even care. Such a great moment. Next one is titled, You Say You Sent the Book? I'll bill you for wasted time. This is a situation that happened with my uncle. About 30 years ago, my uncle ordered a book from a company that sold and shipped books through the mail. Not long after ordering a book he had his eye on, he started getting invoices in the mail from the company, which he thought was weird because he had never received the book. After the 5th or 6th invoice he called the company to complain and told them that he had not received the book. He told them that they either needed to mail him the book and he would pay for it or they stop sending him invoices. Seems reasonable. The company told him they had sent him the book and that they would not be sending out another, and that he had to pay the bill or they were going to charge him a penalty. They got into a big argument where my uncle told the guy on the phone that he wasn't going to pay for something he never received. The argument devolved into yelling and cursing and eventually, the rep hung up. A week later, my uncle got another bill with a late payment penalty applied and got super upset and decided to do something about it. My uncle can be pretty conniving. On to the petty revenge. His solution to this problem was to create his own invoice and bill the book company for the trouble they had caused him. He added up all the time that he wasted dealing with the book and the company and sent a certified letter to the company with his own bill inside. It was something like $50. It worked. While the company didn't pay his bill, my uncle never received another invoice for the book. About 6 months later, my uncle found the book in a drawer. My aunt had gotten the mail and put it in the kitchen junk drawer and had forgotten about it. Next one is titled, Rush Me? Lady, you can wait. Even if it's just an extra few minutes. I work in retail because I need the health insurance, but a lot of customers seem to believe I work where I do because I'm an idiot. And the second something like that comes out of their mouths, could you actually learn how to do your job correctly? Some of us have places to be, you know, jobs that actually matter. I become the stupidest cashier you will ever have. My idiocy knows no bounds, even the mentally handicapped greeters at a Walmart could do better than me. What's that? You're the butthead that brought in an expired coupon, and when I scan it and tell you it's not valid, I'm the stupid one? Ha. Okay then. I guess I need to call over a manager to okay every single one of your coupons, you snotty twat. Good thing you weren't in a rush. Oh wait, you're gonna be late for your doctor's appointment? That's too bad because I accidentally just deleted everything I rung up. Gotta start over. Note, I only do this to customers that insult me first. It's never unprovoked stupidity, and I don't do it if there's a line behind them. It wouldn't be right to duck with innocent shoppers. Next one is titled, Finally He Retaliated. This is not my revenge, it's my son's. Back in the days when he went to school he was bullied, a lot. He was the quiet type and never did much of himself to stick out from the crowd, but that was what caused this. He was bullied by some other kids just about every day. For years and years. I talked to the teachers but they couldn't do much, they could only talk to the bullies and nothing more. We had meetings between the teacher, myself and my son where I told the teacher that this had to stop. I also told him that I had told my son to stand up for himself and fight back. I told him to hit the bullies as hard as he could and aim for their noses. Hopefully the nose would break and the bullies would learn their lessons of not to mess with him anymore. Teacher didn't like that I told him to be violent, but this had to stop. He never hit anyone though. Today he's a grown-up and I don't think he ever hit anyone to this day. After 6 years in school he called me one day, about 30 minutes after I had dropped him off. The bullies had been waiting for him and when they saw me driving away they attacked him. It was winter and we had lots of snow, so they started throwing snowballs at him and pushing him to the ground and rubbing his face into the snow till he was crying. He called me when they finally stopped because of a teacher coming out in the schoolyard and I turned the car around and went back to support him. I went to where the principal, headmaster was and told her that next time this happens I will press charges, both on her and the school itself. This bullying had to stop, right now. Of course it didn't stop. A week after the before-mentioned incident they were at him again. 3 boys stealing his hat and throwing it between each other so my son couldn't get hold of it. After some time he stopped running after them and all the fun the bullies had toned down to nothing as my son didn't try to get his hat back no more. Everything quieted down and my son just stood there looking at them and the 3 bullies started walking away from him when the one who held the hat put it on his own head. Suddenly something snapped in my son's head and all the rage from years of being bullied came to the surface and he attacked. He pushed the one who had his hat on his head to the ground and buried his face in the snow, and while he was holding him down he grabbed the hat and yanked it off the bully's head. The bully screamed like a banshee and the teacher came running and lifted the bully off the ground and escorted him inside. My son got his victory. At last he stood up for himself and he felt good about it. When he was going to put the hat back onto his own head he noticed that it was full of the bully's hair. He had lost lots of it. No wonder he was screaming. The best part of this revenge? My son wasn't reprimanded but the bullies were and they never went after him again. Next one is titled, "Oh, so you wouldn't lend me your lifting straps?" This happened today at my gym. I was doing my regular workout routine, and it was time to do deadlifts. Then I realized that I forgot my lifting straps, an item to prevent the bar rolling from your hands, but I decided to do it anyway. I was deadlift 455 pounds, 206 kilograms. After some point, the calluses in my hands started to hurt a lot to the end of almost bleeding, and I asked a dude who we were friends if he can borrow me his lifting straps for a moment. He said, "Sorry mate, I didn't bring it today." But they were behind his bag, and I pointed it out, and then he said, I'm using them at the moment." I got the message. He didn't want to lend me the straps. So I decided to play it along. Minutes later he asked me if I can lend him my lifting belt because he was about to break his lifetime best record. He can't afford one, and I always lend him my belt before the government closed the gym due to COVID. I decided to take revenge the most hurtful way. I said, "Okay, no problem," and waited until he was about to perform it and took the belt and said, "Sorry, I'm using it at the moment." Looking at him straight to the eyes while I was putting on the belt in my gym bag. His face turned red and the frustration, while he was unloading the bar, was precious. Now I know who I wouldn't lend my lifting belt to again. Next one is titled, "Expelled 3 days before transferring." Or how I bullied a bully back. The 2 months I spent in 6th grade, year 7 for you lovely UK readers, was anything but pleasant. Scary new school, new kids I didn't know because it was a city school instead of county, new teachers, and more importantly a brand new principal who was serving his first year in that position. The school was set up with floors, the 6th graders on the top floor, 7th on the middle, 8th on the main floor along with the cafeteria, gymnasium, band and choir rooms. Kids were expected to be able to travel to and from classrooms and floors as needed on their own for the first time. Now gym was never a favorite class. I had asthma and strenuous activity didn't help that condition any. I sat out with permission from certain things, and the gym teacher aka Coach, Mr. Max, was a wonderful man who understood completely and even waved off a doctor's note for it. After a week or so we played free-for-all dodgeball for the first time. Unlike normal dodgeball, there was no line you couldn't cross, so it was absolute anarchy of children running and screaming and throwing rubber balls at each other. That was when I formally met my new and shiny bully, Ron, who was at least 3 times my size and twice my height. He was a big kid. He looked me over, grinned, and full-on punched me square in the side of the head instead of hitting me with the ball. Then it escalated. He was also a 6th grader, and we shared some classes, gym, and band. In band I'd get smacked in the back of the head with a trombone slide, punched or shoved in gym or a hallway, and then finally one fateful day he picked me up off the floor and tossed me down the stairs from the 3rd floor. I only sprained a wrist and chipped a tooth thankfully, but my mother went beyond ballistic when I finally fessed up to the bullying and a new friend confirmed it. She brought me into school the next day, and requested a meeting with the principal. The meeting went just as bad, and since a teacher hadn't seen the exchange, and I hadn't seen myself getting picked up from behind, he couldn't do anything about it, and it was likely a case of, he just has a crush on you. Mum promptly went home, registered me for homeschooling through a private school, and told me I had a month until I was going to be leaving permanently. And to give that little crap hell, baby. So I did just that. My moldy science experiment? Bag was opened, wiggled into his locker at gym, and squeezed to empty it out onto his clothes. An anthill collected and poured into his backpack during class. I batted my eyelashes and begged him to let me do his history report for him if he'd stop hitting me. I purposely made it absolute garbage to get him a bad grade. Then came the coup de grace. I went to Coach Max and asked if we could play free-for-all dodgeball one last time since I was leaving and loved it so much. He agreed, which meant less work for him after all, and so the game commenced. I knew Ron would hunt me down to hit me somehow again, only this time the tables had turned. I dove for the first ball I found, scanned the carnage for him, ran up to him with a vindictive grin, pulled my leg back and as hard as my tiny body could and slammed my foot right into his crotch. He thumped to the ground with a horrific scream of agony. Kids nearby stopped playing and ran for Coach Max, but that was not the end. I ripped my leg back and kicked him again in the face. Coach saw the last kick, and naturally, called me off, helped the degenerate up, and off to the nurse's office. Once there he threw tears and yelling explained what I had done. The nurse grabbed the principal, who grabbed me, sat me down and demanded to know why I had assaulted a student. "Sir, you said last month that him throwing me downstairs was a crush on me, right?" I was returning the favor. He didn't like that answer apparently, and called my mother to come and get me that I was suspended. My mother did, and since I only had 3 days left before the transfer I never got to go back, and she never punished me for my 2-ish weeks of being a bully. Next one is titled, "You Steal My Package? I hope yours gets returned to sender." Now this literally just happened, about an hour or so ago. For some background, my wife and I had our first child on the 13th, so yes, about a day, almost 2 at this point, ago. My wife's best friend had really generously organized a U-Foods order for us, so we didn't have to worry about cooking and whatnot for a bit. For those that don't know, U-Foods is like pre-packaged meals that come as a bundle, microwave packs, very nice food. On to the story. Me will be your truly BF best friend, RL, rude lady that makes me question human decency. My wife calls this morning to say that the U-Foods order was delivered the night before and to have a look around. I check all out the front and don't see anything. BF calls me. "BF, I'm so sorry, the order was sent to the wrong address on the street." Apologizing profusely. "A lady has messaged me saying she has my package, but hasn't confirmed if it's the U-Foods." "I think it is." Me, "No worries at all, I'll go around and get it from them." About 500 meters down the road I get to the address and knock on the door. "RL, yes?" Me, "So sorry to bug you, but my friend BF's name called and let me know that you might have a package under her name." "A U-Foods order. My wife and I just had our first child and she has accidentally sent to wrong address." "RL, no, I don't have anything, closes door." Me, oh, okay, sorry, said to closing door. Meanwhile BF is trying to contact the lady that messaged, has seen all messages but not responding. 30 minutes later BF confirms with UFoods the order was definitely delivered to that address, still no contact. I head back over. Knock again 4 times, no answer. Again, 4 knocks, dogs barking, no answer, but I can hear someone inside. Now I'm frustrated, I know you're home, just answer the door. Knocking more and more. BF calls again. BF, she messaged again, forward screenshot. Gist of message, I don't have your package, I didn't have to in fridge so I left it outside and now it's gone. Someone must have taken it. You need to contact UFoods, leave me alone, blah blah blah. Obviously this woman has just gone and stolen our order. Who would just leave a whole box of food outside? Petty revenge is suddenly handed to me. Star Trek truck pulls up next to me in driveway, I'm chatting with him and letting him know no one is answering. He leaves a card to collect the parcel and goes on his way. I confirm the name on the card is the name of RL messaging BF. I take the card, head round the side of the house and tuck it away in the meter box. Who seriously steals a food delivery that isn't for you after messaging saying that it was delivered to wrong address? I hope your package gets sent back. Next one is titled, Take Away My Book? That's okay. So this all took place in the 5th grade. I was the type of kid who preferred books to other people, and I would literally sneak into the library and hide during recess so I could read. I was reading Lord of the Rings for the first time, which was easily the most difficult novel I had read up to that point. Because it was such a massive book, I hated carrying it back and forth to school because my backpack already weighed a ton from my textbooks. Also I was 9 and pretty lazy. Fortunately, I owned the same copy of the book they had at the school library so I would just remember which page I left off on. This eliminated the need to carry it back and forth from school. I would often get in trouble for reading under my desk during class and I had upwards of 40 books confiscated throughout the school year. It drove my teacher nuts. One day, I was reading Lord of the Rings under my desk as was my routine. As per usual, the teacher took it away. But then I realized, I had forgotten my master plan that morning and had accidentally brought my copy from home and it was currently in my backpack hanging from the back of my chair. As quietly as I could, I pull it out and continue reading. Inevitably, 10 minutes later, the teacher comes to take away my book. Upon seeing the cover, he does a double take, walks back to his desk without a word and holds the 2 copies side by side with the most befuddled look I had ever seen on an adult's face before. Being 9, and a menace, I burst out laughing. Teacher looks back at me and also starts laughing. It took him a full 5 minutes to compose himself. He was dying laughing with me while the rest of the class looked on none the wiser. Over a decade later, I was working as a hostess in a restaurant and the teacher came in. He recognized my face immediately but couldn't remember my name. He only knew me as the bookworm girl. Apparently he still tells that story every time he gets the opportunity. Last one is titled, Won't Call Me By My Name? Okay. When I was in college, I worked at a gastropub as a server and bartender. When I had been there a few months, we hired a new guy named Nathaniel, but who went by Nathan. My name is Joshua, and I've never gone by Josh, as that is my dad's name and it also just, I don't know, never suited me. I've always been pretty adamant about being called Joshua, ignoring teachers who shortened it, etc. I introduced myself to Nathan, who immediately said something like, "Nice to meet you, Josh." I politely told him that I preferred Joshua, using my go-to line, "My dad is Josh," and my parents decided that Joshua was preferable to Bubba. I'm from the American South, where Bubba is a common nickname for any junior or male who has the same first name as his father. It's also kind of a pejorative nickname used by people from other parts of the country for backward, redneck Southerners. The line usually gets a laugh, or at least a good-natured chuckle, and people don't seem to have a problem calling me Joshua afterward. Nathan, however, never once used my full name, always calling me Josh. I really liked the guy and enjoyed working with him, and we soon became pretty good friends, often hanging out outside of work, etc., but his refusal to use my preferred name always kind of irked me. My very silly, very petty revenge was that I always called him Nate instead of Nathan. He looked at me oddly the first couple of times, but he never brought it up. I never once heard another person call him Nate, and frankly, Nathan suited him much better. One night a few of us were closing the bar, and he, as usual, called me Josh. One of the waitresses, bless her, corrected him. He goes by Joshua. Nobody calls him Josh, she said. Nathan stopped wiping the bar, got a far-off look for a moment, then spun to look at me. Is that why you call me Nate? He asked. I just laughed. There was general banter for a few minutes about how everyone thought it was odd that I called him Nate, but nobody really thought about it. Nate laughed about it and then was like, screw it. Let's keep going with the wrong names. And so we did. He's the only person I know who calls me Josh, and as far as I know, nobody but me calls him Nate. What was once a bit of a nagging annoyance to me became a kind of bonding thing, having our own buddy names, pet names. Cringe for each other. That's all. Dumb, but I think it's in the spirit of this sub. Thanks for listening.